Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Reduce Enterprise Asset Total Cost of Ownership and Improve Productivity by Accrete Solutions and Berger-Levrault. Before we get started, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will bring them up during the presentation, and we will have also have time for questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you following the presentation for your own purpose or to share with others. Now I would like to introduce today's presenters. I would request our presenter to share a brief about their expertise and experience in their current organization. We have Ashish Saxena. He is Vice President Global Delivery at Accrete. Ashish.
Yeah, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am responsible for global project delivery at Accrete. I have been doing enterprise asset management, customer service, parts planning and logistics, warehousing, service to cash, repair centers, etc. Implementations as well as defining business processes, roadmaps and strategies for the last 25 plus years. I actually worked in the business also for about 10 years and managed repair centers, parts logistics, parts planning, field service, etc. And before starting Accrete, which I am a co-founder of, I worked at KPMG and Bearing Point, which are large consulting companies. That is a nutshell about me.
Thank you, Ashish. We have Patrick Warren from Berger-Levrault. He is the Sales Director, North America EM. Patrick.
I'm excited to be here. I'm Patrick Warren. I'm the North American Sales Director for Berger-Levrault for our call source solution, EM and CMMS. My background was a civil engineer, so I started by designing, buildings and plants, and then building them, and then eventually once you build them, you have to maintain them. So I was a facilities manager for a few years. And then if you're in facilities and plant maintenance, you need the software to help you out. So I started implementing different EAM and CMMS solution, and I was a client of Call before I started working for them, and now I represent Call. I love the product, and this is me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Patrick. And we have Sebastian Carrot. He is a solution architect with Berger-Levrault. Sebastian.
Yes, good morning. So I've been working as consultant for the implementation of Carl softwares for a few years. So that means configuring, customizing, and providing support.
Thank you, Sebastian. And we will start this webinar with short poll. So we have just 3 questions. I would request you to respond to these poll questions. So first one is regarding the challenges you are facing in your organization in terms of regarding asset management. Here we have our second poll question. It's about the digital transformation plans maybe you have for your organization, timelines. And here we have our last poll question for today. Thank you so much. And now I will hand over to Ashish to start today's presentation. Ashish.
Ashish, you may be on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. I started talking on mute. So I'm going to talk about the challenges in the EAM and field service areas, especially, and I'll also talk about general challenges in EAM space, and then maybe something related to specific industries. So all of you would have done corrective maintenance, which is when the machine breaks down and then you send the technician for repair. That's the pretty common thing, which was done until recently and is being done even now. But the maintenance strategies later on incorporated preventive maintenance, which resulted in lower corrective maintenance, but still was based on duration or usage of equipment. So basically, if you think about a car, so car could be serviced every 10,000 miles, or could be based on a year less duration. So every year or every 6 months you have to service it. The PM was based on a rate of failure and did not account for actual equipment performance. So that resulted, even though the car may be working fine or the part is not broken, you still did maintenance, which resulted in unnecessary cost and unnecessary downtime. Now, the latest thing which most leading companies are doing is predictive maintenance, which is actually much better than both corrective maintenance and preventive maintenance. Predictive maintenance basically predicts failure before it occurs or is about to occur. And it also helped, it's basically based on sensors tracking the condition of the machine real time, and that can help trigger a service notification or a maintenance notification if the machine is about to go down or has gone down. So basically the repair can start right away. And there are tools, AI and ML tools, which use algorithms and historical information to predict when failures will happen. Now, predictive maintenance results in lower cost because you do lesser maintenance and maintenance only when it fails or about to fail. And it also can result in, you can have the repair process start right away, which means you can meet or beat the SLAs as well. Essentially, you'll have a higher return on assets. Another challenge which is there is accurate maintenance data. So basically having an asset 360-degree view of each and every asset across geography, across countries, across departments, and how data is collected. Data should be collected, can be collected by repair technicians or by remote monitoring, or you do a upgrade or add, a customer buys some additional parts. So there needs to be, the data needs to be collected properly and consistently so that all maintenance data, including notifications, parts replaced, work orders, etc., should be tracked properly. So an asset 360-degree view of the asset provides a holistic view of the organization's asset and how they're performing. And some could be very critical assets. It also helps in monitoring KPIs like MTTR, MTBF, higher up times, first time fix rates, etc. Another challenge which is becoming quite common these days is the machines are quite complex. You have robots, you have sensors, you have electronic equipments to for automation of automation in the production floor, which are quite complex and to operate and as well as to maintain. Similarly, machines like turbines or large motors, as well as X-rays and CT scan machines in medical industry, are quite complex and difficult to maintain. And these machines do require servicing, and it's difficult to service if they do break down. And for that, you need experienced and skilled resources, which are in short supply. So periodic training of the resources, training other junior resources, having proper knowledge management systems, and then finally remote diagnosis by experts can also help to a certain extent in alleviating this issue. These are some of the challenges. You can see the others on the slide. I'll talk about some industry-specific challenges, and of course, each industry has its own unique set of EAM challenges. Some are common, as I said earlier, but there could be some unique challenges as well. So in the case of food and beverage industry, for example, it is quite asset intensive. And here it is imperative that you want to maximize returns on capital investments. And any equipment downtime could result in production loss, which could impact the margins directly. So one way to combat this is to determine asset criticality for making sure the right assets gets serviced first. So for doing the asset criticality ranking, you need to score all the assets based on the likelihood of failure and what happens if the failure does occur. You should also consider factors like safety, product quality, mean time between failures, mean time to repair, what is the cost of replacing an asset, probability of failure, etc. And then based on these, based on the criticality score, you could prioritize maintenance tasks and attention to a specific asset or the asset across the organization. This can make a big difference or huge difference as in the F&B industry, as assets are quite complex and they're interconnected. So for example, you have conveyors, fasteners, filler machines, etc. So if something breaks, the whole food production line comes to a stop. So that was about F&B. Life sciences is another industry which is very highly regulated, and there's a lot of global competition and global regulation, as well as US and Canada have their own regulations as well. And you want to optimize asset performance and try to reduce operational risk. Compliance with FDA regulations like CFR Part 11 is again mandatory in US, and you want the asset management software to comply with these regulations, as well as follow electronic record retention and maintenance rules. In this regulated environment, you cannot have multiple applications or non-standardized applications or different applications for different areas. Like you have something for assets, you have something for some other application for work orders, another application for notification. This probably would result in non-compliance and additional compliance costs. So it is highly recommended that you use a single application that can manage the company's critical assets across the asset life cycle. Now, Berger-Levrault's EAM solution, Carl Source and Carl Touch, which Patrick is going to talk about, does cover many of these challenges, and has a lot of functionality by which any EAM or a field service department can be leveraged. So over to you, Patrick.
All right, thank you, Ashish. If you want to go to the next slide, please, Sergi. So I'm just going to present Berger-Levrault, BL for short. Most of you don't know us, but we've been around for a little while. We were founded in 1463. To put that in perspective, we're older than the United States. We were not doing IT or software back then, but since 1981, we are a true IT company. We have 1,800 employees. Where you see the red is where we have offices, boots on the ground. We have clients worldwide. We do $300 million of revenues, and we invest more than 25% in R&D. We also have 51,000 clients, and those clients have millions of users. Next slide, please, Edry. So our call source solution, which is the solution for EAM and CMMS, when you implement an enterprise solution, you want to see improvement across the board. And every 2 years, we survey our clients, and they confirm to us that they do see improvement across the board, be it in asset life cycle, stock control, subcontractor utilizations. But if you see improvement, but you're not getting your money back because it takes forever, that's not good. And that's why the number that we're proudest of is that for about half our clients, their return on investment is less than 16 months. And that's unique in the industry. And that's driven by 2 factors. One is our ease of implementation. So our partner in Europe, compared to other major competitors, tells us that we are easier by at least half and more to implement than other partners, which reduce the project implementation cost. And our largest clients by headcount, which has thousands of users in the system, tells us that one of the strengths of our system is the ease of use, and they're able to onboard the resources in hours and not days. That means that, first of all, it's lesser cost for a resource to be productive. But if the users know how to use the system and are happy or likes to use the system, you get better quality data. And the second aspect, or the other factor that drives the ROI, is our mobility solution that works connected or disconnected, that we created in 2012 for smartphones and tablets. It's really a jewel in the crown. It's super slick and lets technicians and stock keeper do their work right where they do, or report on their work right where they do the work. Next slide. So we have clients across the sectors. The client that everybody knows about is the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower has been using our solution since 2001 to manage everything they have, be it the elevators, or you probably know our steam powered, and the security camera, the lights, everything they manage using our application. But we also have Brembo brakes. If you have a Porsche, that's the brakes on your Porsche. Airbus, obviously everybody knows Airbus, Lindt Chocolate, ArcelorMittal, the steel mill, Carrier, Ecolab, and really across all the sectors. So what can you do with CAL? Well, first I want to mention that BL has been around since 1463, but CAL has been around since 1986. So it's a very mature and proven solution. Obviously, you can manage assets, all the inventory of your asset, the conditions, when you purchase it, when you put it in the service, depreciation, sub-assets, unlimited level of number of sub-assets, and unlimited sub-assets, specification, troubleshooting tree, preventive maintenance. You can link it to your production schedule, so you can schedule your work around your production. or your maintenance around your production. Yes, you can manage the work, so labor, who did what, parts, subcontracting, task accomplished, meter readings, also condition assessment that can trigger other work orders. We can group work orders under a project. For example, if you have a recall, you can track the recall both in terms of progress and in terms of cost. Resources, we track the labor, obviously technician, tools and equipment, and subcontractors. We have a full stock module with multiple warehouse, min-max per warehouse. You can be centralized warehouse, decentralized warehouse, substitute item, catalog of parts for different suppliers with different lead time, purchasing costs. You can also have statistics on, ABC statistics, both in terms of cost and volume. We can manage from the purchase request all the way to the invoice. So purchase requests, purchase orders, delivery notes, and invoicing. Typically in our system, we manage purchase requests and delivery notes, and then we interface with ERP so that the information is in both systems, and that user can only have to access one system. They don't have to learn two systems, and that's really one of the subjects of this presentation today. We can manage goods contract, services contract. For example, if there's a contract tied to a PM, we can know what work orders were issued against that contract, PR against that contract, so on and so forth, and we can manage leases. We have a general ledger module where we can replicate all the cost center in the ERP, again, so that maintenance people can stay in one system, a system made for maintenance, and that the finance people have the same information to make communication easier. We have two mobility solution. Top left, call flash, is for requester, anybody that's not in maintenance, so a production line manager, a citizen, a nurse, or a doctor that wants to make a request for something to be done. Bottom right, call touch, is for technicians and stock keepers. Let them report on all their work right using a smartphone or a tablet. If you have data, you want to report on it, so we do provide a reporting engine, and it's fully you can create and modify report to your hard content. We can connect the BI to call source, so we can connect either Power BI, or we can provide you Power BI if you don't have a BI. We have two back office solutions, Call Loader and Call Admin. Call Loader is to bring legacy data into our system. Call Admin is to do backup and restore, or for example, migrate production data to your training environment. The strength of an application like ours is that it's not a standalone application. We're part normally of an ecosystem of application. And we exchange information using two tools, REST APIs. We have a full library of REST APIs, and CSV file. There's still some organization and external system that use CSV file. One that is typical is utilities send over CSV files. But we interface typically with ERP, GIS, HR system, SCADA, MES, IoT, and we really leverage those systems so that you get maximum of productivity in your operation. Next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashish to discuss one of those integration, in this case SAP. Ashish, back to you.
Thanks, Patrick. So this is an example of a integration of card source with SAP S4HANA. You can replace ERP S4HANA with any ERP, could be Oracle or Microsoft, etc. But in this example, we have taken SAP Integration. So if you look on the left-hand side, you have the materials, you have the master data, which is materials, BOMs, and equipment records. Could be function locations as well. You can replicate them to card source, so all the information would be present in card source. Similarly, unlike other EAM softwares, card source can manage inventory as well. So we want to sync up inventory between SAP ERP as well as card source also. Now you can, a machine could go down, and it can automatically trigger a ticket or a maintenance request using IoT solution. So CAL does support IoT as well. And then that can be converted to a work order. The work orders, you could have multiple types of work orders, could be a calibration work order, could be a installation, could be for inspection, could be for breakdown, could be for preventive maintenance, etc. From the work order, you can also request parts. So the technician may be at another location and the warehouse is slightly away, so they may request a part from the warehouse, main warehouse, and that will create a parts request in CarSource, which will create a reservation in SAP ERP. And once the warehouse guy basically issues the parts, they can do a goods transfer, and that goods transfer will basically move the inventory from one location to another. And all the goods transfer will also be replicated to CarSource so that the inventory is in sync in both the systems. Similarly, you can trigger a purchase request for spare parts or a purchase request for services. That will create a purchase order in the ERP system. Once the purchase order is received, sent to the vendor is going to perform a goods receipt. The goods receipt will be performed in SAP, and the goods receipt information is also replicated over to CarSource. Now, the work order, so there's an excellent scheduling engine for technicians. You can also schedule items like tools which are used for repair as well, which is a good feature in the CAL software, which is so you can schedule the technicians, multiple technicians, as well as one or multiple tools. And then once the job is completed, you could track the parts being used and what's the labor hours being spent. Other thing is, how do you track the costs? So the work order is replicated to SAP ERP as an internal order, which is basically a cost collector. So you can collect all the labor costs, which you can get based on the hourly rate times the number of hours, as well as what are the parts used. Parts used would trigger goods issue in SAP ERP, which will also track the cost. You can also track the cost for the tools used. So you can define a rate for the tools, and you can track the tool cost as well. And you can track other types of cost as well, including overtime, weekend, etc., etc. So this is a nutshell about the integration. Also, I forgot to tell you one thing. You can also calculate a WIP, in case it's a multi-month or a multi-year order. You could do WIP calculation as well. Now, this is an example of ArcelorMittal, where SAP was integrated with CalSource. In this case, you can see the parts master records going from SAP to CalSource. And then on the once the work order was completed, the parts used information. So work order consumption information is fed back to SAP, and then inventory information also is being sent from SAP to CalSource. So essentially, you could do reporting in SAP or in CalSource about the costs or the parts used. And then there's a lot of reporting available in CalSource as well. So now I'll hand it over to Sebastian, who will show you a quick demo of how the CalSource solution works. He's going to focus on the web-based demo and not the mobile application, which probably we can do later. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I will do a quick demo with a quick scenario with a requester saying there is something broken, and then the technician will take the work request into account. So let's say I'm John Doe, a requester. John. Okay, login. So this is my home screen. I have some information, but first I have one shortcut to create some work order. So let's say I've seen that the elevator is broken. I can add some other information. For example, I will choose the asset which is broken. In fact, I am working in the Limonest site in the building 2, and we can see there is only one elevator, so I will choose that elevator. What can I say? A comment. The red light is flashing, and there is no response when I'm pressing button. Okay, I'm done. So I'm going back on my home screen. I can see that I have one work request which is not taken into account. So that's it. I'm done. Now I'm logging off. I'm coming back as a technician now. Technician is called Joe Smith. Okay. So this is the home screen of Joe Smith. You can see it's a bit different. For example, we have some indicators, like there are 22 work orders in progress, for example, and also 9 work requests to take into account. So I'm clicking on it, and I can see that there is one work request about an elevator. So I'm clicking on it. So I can see that John Doe made a request saying that's something about an elevator. Okay, so I can go on place and check what's wrong. Coming back, saying this is something about vandalism. So let's say we will process this work request. So this is in the screen. Carlos asked me to create a new work order, as there is nothing on that asset. Also, I know that my asset is under contract, maintenance contract. So just to simplify the demo, I will remove it, and I will create a work order. Okay, so the elevator is broken. What I know is I will need some components. I need a fuse, for example, 2 fuses. Okay. This is planned for today. Just I'm going back. I will plan it for this afternoon at 14. So I have 2 fuses. Let's say I will need a stool. So I have a stool available also for today. I will plan myself to work on it. Joe Smith. So I will work today at 14. Let's say we plan 2 hours of work. And what I can do also, saying that there is a risk of electrocution. So as I'm putting this risk, we have preventive measures like wearing gloves and safety goggles. Now I'm done with this work order. So the expected charge will be updated as I have planned 2 hours. Okay. I will say I will confirm the work order. Now this is planned for this afternoon. Let's say I'm back to my home screen. Now I have 22 work orders in progress. So let's say I'm doing the work, I am fixing what's wrong, and I am coming back at the end of the day. So I'm taking all the list of my work orders in progress. I'm going back to my work order about the elevator, saying that, saying what I've done. I put it back in service. Replaced 2 fuses, and also resetting the card. Just a reminder. Also, so we had a reservation of 2 fuses. Now I will make the consumption as I took the components out of stock. So I will search my reservation, taking my 2 fuses and saving. Okay. Now I will say that also I used the stool during 2 hours. Okay, and also my labor reporting. So the times I spent 3 hours. So this is daytime, and also let's say that somebody helped me. Roberto helped me during 1 hour. That's it. So the work order is not anymore in progress. I will close it. The end date will be updated to now, in fact. I can add a comment for the requester saying that lift is back in service. That's it. Now I'm done. I can go back to my home screen. I can log off, in fact. Just to see what we'll have John. John on his home screen can see that there is not any work request anymore into account, but it's now in the completed place. So I can check what has been done. Okay, I can see that the work request has been closed, and also I can see that everything is done. Okay, so I'm done with the demo. Just another thing to say. Everything I've done with CarSource, you can also do it with the mobile apps. What John Doe have done, creating a request and checking it, you can do it with CarFlash. And what Joe Smith have done, you can do it with CarTouch, which is for technician. That's it.
Thank you, Sebastian. So just to present you some of our customers in more detail. So Ecolab, we have the two biggest plants in Europe. They use Called Source and Called Touch, and they have an integration with SAP. Next one, please. The next one is SOAR. That's our largest client by user count. They have 3,000 people, 3,000 technicians that use our software. There's 430 people connected at any given time. They do 3 million work orders per year, and they have an integration with GIS, Esri, and also their ERP system. Then we have the last one, which is ArcelorMittal, which is the example we use. We have 3 plants in Europe. They use Called Touch, Called Flash, and also Called Source. They have an integration with SAP, and you know, they very big users of Called Source, and you know, we're very proud of all our customers and very excited to have them with us. So when you implement an EM software, there are some key things to make it a successful project. The first one is not to discount the level of change required. This is something that has to be managed by the client. Accrete and Berger-Levrault BL are there to support you, but it is an internal change that needs to be driven or managed and led by the client. The availability of super users, subject matter expert, and PM is key. You know, it is a project, so it has to be managed as such and not just a homework. Interface content definition. So when is the handover from the PR to the PO? What happens if there's bad data? You know, it needs to be defined very precisely, and that's really important. We're always excited to implement our solution at clients, but one of the things that's really important is that to involve people in the other systems early and make sure they are available, because we talk to other systems, the other system has to talk back. Accurate asset and data information. This is the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have good, sorry for that. If you don't have good data, you will not get the same same capability in terms of decision making. And lastly, this is tied to the first one, which is change management, but it's worth highlighting on its own. Training of end users. So you can't expect end users to learn by osmosis. You have to make sure that training is done and that you have continuous training. Too often we have a project, it's great, it's working well, but then the client forget that somebody's going to retire or move on, and they have to have a system in place to make sure that the new users are on board just as effectively as when the system went live. Next slide.
Thank you, Patrick. Now we are now going to begin answering the questions. So we have a couple of questions. So first question that we have is, what is the minimum number of users required for the solution? Patrick, you would like to take?
Yes, and please do ask questions in the chat if you have more questions. If we deliver the solution, or we can deliver the solution on premise, we can host the solution, or we can provide it as SaaS. If it's on premise or hosted, there's no minimum of user. If it's delivered as SaaS, basically as a subscription, then we have a minimum of 10 users.
Thank you. We have another question. Is stock management available in mobile solution? It means the part of mobility solution that we have in Called Source.
So yes, Called Touch, both on the technician side and on the stock side, is available. So the mobility solution does support stock management, both in terms of knowing where your stocks are, stock entries, withdrawal, transfer, ad hoc inventory, cycle inventory, receiving goods from purchase order, from purchase requests, so direct purchase, for example, credit cards.
Thank you. And we have one more question. How does BL Car Source compare with other EM solutions such as from Infor, IBM, etc.?
We have a very similar coverage in terms of functionality. So 95 plus, we have 95% plus of the functionality that major competitors such as Infor and Maximo have. So we compare very favorably. The biggest difference is what our European partner says, and it's not us who says that, is the implementation cost is half that of those systems. So very easy to put in place, and it's not a big lift. It means that from the time you make a decision to implement a solution like CalSource and the time you use it, it's a lot less time than other systems.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Ashish, for today's presentation. And if you have any questions related to asset management strategy and solution, please reach out to us on the email given on the screen, or even on a phone number that we have shared. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. And on behalf of Accrete and Berger-Levrault and our presenters, thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.